You have consumers who are now ChatGPT warriors that type that crap into ChatGPT and say, I bought this car from so-and-so auto and this thing happened. What should I do? Okay, please draft me a letter.
I noticed a distinct change August, September timeframe in the sophistication of complaints that I was seeing from consumers. And it's because AI has learned our business better, and it has learned how to attack our business better. And I'm so concerned about it. I'm actually teaching a class on this at Compliance Unleashed this year, specifically on how consumers are using AI to attack dealers, because the game has changed, and the quality that is going to the regulators and is being pled in courts. I looked at one last week. Pro se plaintiff.
Hello and welcome to the Independent Dealer Podcast. Luke, one of my favorite topics, best time of the year to talk about it. If it's not tax money, it is compliance and making sure I don't get my pantsuit off me.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an important thing when we talk about dealers and how they should operate in their business. And we have one of the best in the industry, I should say, to keep us compliant and keep us safe. And that's Mr. Steve Levine with Ignite Consulting. Thanks for being here, Steve.
Thanks for having me, guys. Great to be here again.
Mm-hmm. Steve's like he's like the canary in the coal mine, or like the watchman on the tower, or like the, I don't know, what's the other kind of like acronym for him? Like he's the guy that lets us know what's going on before we get freaking ambushed or infiltrated or like shut down. Right, Steve?
I try to be. Yeah.
You've got your pulse on what's going on. So give us an update, Steve. What are you seeing? Like, because I got a bunch of questions for you because I see stuff here. But first off, tell us what are you seeing?
What happened in 2025? I mean, I think that's the best thing to go at. Like, what'd you see happen in 2025 with dealer compliance? How are people getting sued, or how are people making consumers angry that we need to do a better job of?
The big thing I saw throughout 2025 was increase of activity by the state regulators. You know, that there's this war being fought between the states and the federal government, and the CFPB backing down and federal deregulation. And a lot of the consumer advocates, consumer zealots got very upset about that. And they became very aggressive at the state level. I mean, I had more attorney general activity this summer than any summer I could remember. And they were harder to talk to. They were harder to get to see reason. And that's still ongoing.
And is this regulation financial disclosure regulation, or is this legislation that I sold them a limit? Like, what is causing the consumer to push back? What's causing the consumer affairs to push back in these states?
A lot of that depends on the given state. Some states are being very aggressive in how they're interpreting their statutes and are really targeting certain types of conduct, profit centers and fees. A big one is if the AG is getting complaints about a dealership, they're much more likely to go in and start digging around and asking questions. And
you don't want
a handful of examples of that.
Don't want that.
Well, I mean, let's put that in context, guys. If your AG is getting complaints about you, he should be coming in and digging around and finding out what the freak's going on, right? Like, we're talking to a group of dealers here on this podcast who have their pulse on their dealerships. If complaints are getting outside of your four walls of your dealership, like, come on, like, you should be addressing these things. You should not let those get to the state level.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, Jeff, I meet a lot of dealers. When I ask them about their complaint management, it's blank. I don't counting on their folks to do a good job, but they have no idea. They're not documenting anything, that they can't tell you anything historical. And that's problematic, because more so now than I've ever seen, the attorney generals have a lot of working relationships with Better Business Bureau. And I mean, I had one dealer, they flat out asked them, give us your Better Business Bureau complaints for the last 3 years. Luckily, this was a dealer that really kept good track of things, and we were able to answer that question. If you don't have that record and you can't answer that question, you're just inviting a ton of scrutiny. So it's important to keep track of this stuff. It's important to talk to your team about what they're doing in the complaint process. What is a complaint? And where do we write that down, and what the next steps are in terms of getting it resolved?
Steve, I think that's key. What is a complaint? Because is a complaint that someone is mad because we repossess their car, or is a complaint where we repossess the customer's car and they go to the Department of Consumer Affairs, or they go to the Better Business Bureau, or they leave a review? Is that a complaint? Because some complaints are real and some complaints are not real.
So this is where a lot of people that they get tripped up right here. They can't answer this question, and they just move on and never want to invest the time and tackle it. I don't really care that everybody has the same definition of a complaint, but I care if everybody in your organization has the same definition of a complaint. We shouldn't have departments thinking there are different definitions. To me, it's a dissatisfaction with a product or a service that you've provided. So if they're saying, I told the salesman that these are my pay dates and they told me my payments were going to be due this date, and then they do something else, okay, that's a complaint. If they're just complaining about my car payment's too much, you shouldn't have repossessed, we hear that noise all the time. But if they're pointing the finger at something you did or didn't do, something that was said or not said, I think that rises to the level. And I got one client that they had a problem with their complaint process. And we started meeting weekly about it and really digging in. And what we found was collections and service departments had completely different understandings of what a complaint was. And we're just looking for the other to solve the problems. And once we broke through and got everybody on the same page, no more problems. It all works out now.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that you have a situation, and the reason I made that first statement was I get a grievance, right? Like, you have a complaint, hey, you got my paydays wrong, or hey, I understood that this was a 12-month warranty that was bumper to bumper. Like, there's little like misunderstandings, let's say, but then there's complaints. Like, you sold me a warranty I didn't know I had, or you told me my interest rate was 12% and it's actually 24, or you didn't account for my down payment right. Like, there's actual errors and issues. Those is what I don't understand. Like, if someone comes in and says, you sold me a warranty I didn't know about, okay, Mr. Customer, I'm so sorry. Let me refund that. Like, what are we doing? Are these dealerships you're dealing with, Steve? Are they actually saying, nope, you said yes. See, I have a signature right here that says you bought this warranty. Like, they're sticking it to these customers at the expense of
it does happen.
A couple bucks.
I was dealing with an issue yesterday, because of the storm. A lot of people are in a state of emergency, and this client chose to turn off cars over the weekend. And my first question to him, well, like, what are you doing? It's a storm. It's a state of emergency. You got to think about these stuff. You got to anticipate that you're just going to drive negative experiences when you do something like that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, it's like, nope, this is what our policy is. This is what we train our folks. This is what we're doing. That doesn't matter.
Did you tell them to turn all those cars back on immediately?
I don't know, so they can drive out of the storm. You don't want them stuck in there getting iced on.
I had the nightmare in my head. Somebody's stuck in the house and they need to go get milk for the kids, and car's turned off.
Yeah, well, that's the only thing producing heat for them is sitting in their car. Like, so common sense, I guess, would say. I mean,
it should prevail, Jeff. Common sense should prevail, but it doesn't always do so.
So I get when you say these AG complaints, and we had the situation here in Utah, right? We had some AG was still complaining or getting complaints by consumers there's probably 2 or 3 dealer groups in the state that everybody knows are sketchy. They have false advertising on their website. They are notorious for payment packing and duping customers. And it's literally known. The New Car Association knows who these guys are. But when the AG is like, hey, we still have complaints, they throw this big blanket regulation on all dealers and say, okay, because we're getting payment complaints, we're going to change this form and add new stuff. When literally you could go to 3 dealer principals that don't know that their F&I guys are fleecing customers or don't care maybe, and just find the pants off them. Drop a big old lawsuit on them, and I guarantee you that would stop. And the rest of us dealers don't have to deal with all this nonsensical red tape that's popping up. Is that what you're seeing, Steve? Is it literally just bad apples in the barrel spoiling the whole thing?
Well, I think some of it is. I also think some of it is just bad information. And this is something that I'm trying to combat with, our training platform and all the stuff I put out information wise. I'll go to those, Facebook group pages and you'll have somebody say something outlandish, clearly illegal. And you'll have 5 people say, ooh, you shouldn't be doing that. You'll have the one guy say, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And they'll listen to the one person. Yeah. So there's just some bad information out there too.
There's truly disinformation out there. And we see it in the Facebook groups all the time. And
I see it every Thursday when I listen to the Luke's podcast.
Thanks, Jeff. I
warn my clients too. I warn my clients, be careful who's reading that stuff, because it's not just dealers on those pages. I guarantee you've got regulators watching those pages. You've got lawyers watching those pages. And I do know lawyers that have used that against dealers in litigation. Let's put your Facebook page up there. Let's look at all these comments. What'd you do about this one? What'd you do about this one? So you really need to do a good job of understanding what the rules are.
Hey guys, just to jump in and talk about Buckeye Risk Services. They've been one of our sponsors forever. They're great to the industry. They're one of your sponsors. You don't even know it. Every time you go to a convention or something like that, they're there helping out. Isn't that right, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. I have not seen a company so willing to get behind the dealers from an education, from a support standpoint. I mean, there's a handful that we see in our sphere that are very active and always have our back, but Buckeye really sets the standard. So when you're looking for a reinsurance company, if you've decided it's time to get into it, you've got to call the guys and girls over at Buckeye. I promise you will not regret it.
Yep. Reinsurance, forced savings account, wealth building, tax planning, all these things go together. So call Buckeye. We've been in business for 40 years. Okay. And I think I know a good bit about compliance, and I try to be as compliant as possible. But even me, who's been in business that long, whenever I have a question, my first call is Steve Levine, because I'm not going to put it out there for some dealer that's been in business for a month to comment on. It's not worth it to me. You shouldn't be taking your compliance questions to Facebook. It shouldn't be there. It should go to Steve Levine. It should be dealt with at conferences. It shouldn't be put in the open for other consumers, other dealers, and other people to comment on, in my opinion.
Yeah. Steve, let me ask you a specific question along those lines then. When you say complaint documenting, what are you seeing dealers do or use? Give us some advice there, because to me, my brain says, well, we documented it inside of our DMS. It's in the notes that this is what the complaint was and this is how we resolved it. Is that adequate, or do we need a separate ledger, Google Sheet document, formal complaint forms that are being filled out, resolved, and filed away somewhere?
I'd like it to be kept separately, because if you get examined and a regulator starts asking questions about complaints, you don't want to have to go sort through all your notes to try to answer those questions. You want, I don't care whether it's a yellow legal pad or a spreadsheet, or if you want to use software, I don't care. But just as long as you've got something that you could show that we do track this and we do work through this. And look, if it's complaints that you got resolved in 5 minutes, I don't really care about writing those down. But the ones that continue on, the ones that there's a email chain, or that there's just, note after note, it's good to have those written down separately. And the other thing I find that some dealers do is they'll only write down the hardest, most miserable ones. And the result,
All the ones that cause you headache. They sit down with you in the office and you got the wife and the husband and the wife there and they're complaining. And we had one the other day. We had to unwind a deal. And that would be an automatic trigger, right? I mean, if you ever unwind a deal, like that needs to be documented on why and how and all that kind of stuff, right? But those are the biggest headaches because they are kind of the ones that grab your attention.
Right. And I think that it requires some work. It doesn't require a ton of work, but the benefits are huge because this is happening more and more. I never used to talk about this 10 years ago. And now it seems like it happens very frequently, and not just the big scary blue states, but it happens all over the country because all the regulators talk to one another. And there's a lot of consumer zealots out there that are pushing the regulators. And there's also out there too.
Yeah, and there's also some bad dealers out there. I mean, let's be honest. And the unwind, Jeff, and this happens, and dealers need to take this in as a tool in their toolbox, because the last thing you want as a buy here, pay here dealer is to keep a customer in a car that doesn't want to be in the car, because they can just create a nightmare for you. And even as a retail dealer, unwind the deal if it's even a bit sideways. Just get out of it. It's so refreshing sometimes to look at the customer and say, you know what, you're having this much problem. I'm going to buy the car back from you. I'm going to give you your down payment back. I'm going to take the car back. For one, it kind of takes the burden off of you as a dealer to try to rectify something that may take some time. And the consumer actually, when you say that, it disarms them, right, Jeff? I mean, this probably happened with you.
Yeah. And one I think of 2 months ago I did was a friend of mine that I sold a Yukon to that just started acting up. And I tried to help him kind of work through it for the first few weeks. And then he's like, my wife has no confidence in the car. And I'm like, well, that's it. Like, yeah, just bring it to me. I'm going to cut you a check for the full amount. I'm not going to subtract miles or this. That's right. I'll pay you for the head gasket job you did or the valve covers. Like, it just doesn't matter. I think we need to be cautious of that. And here's the issue you said, Luke, earlier. Desperate times make dealers desperate.
Yeah.
And so, yes, financially, I'm in a position where I can buy back a Yukon that's going to cost me a couple bucks. And I get that not all dealers are there. I get that if they take that $3,000 loss, bringing a car back into inventory that's got issues, it could put them under for the month.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
I have some empathy there.
I do too.
Hey, real quick break to make sure you guys know about Blitz Pay. It's who I use to take all the payments at my Buy Here, Pay Here dealership. We've been with them for almost 3 years now, and it is absolutely amazing. It's great.
Yeah, the product is so simple, even an idiot like me can use it. But when my collector's out and I'm just taking a phone call here or there, no matter where I am, I can log into Blitz Pay and I can take that payment. I can see the customers texting in and say, hey, can you run this? Or whatever's going on, it's always on top of it. And the money's in the bank almost the next day. And that is, to me, so important. And the support is great. If we do have a chargeback or a dispute, we get an email that says, hey, there was this dispute. And then their team goes to work to help us resolve it. They don't just dump it back on your table with some random notification or email that you barely ever see, like my previous processors. Yeah, that it's so helpful. And a lot of times it's because our customers did something wrong. But when it's not, they'll fight to the end with you and get that money back in your account. Yeah, so give them a call. The guys and girls over at Blitz Pay, great partner to have. Definitely an essential tool to have if you're a Buy Here, Pay Here dealer. What do you do when you're in that situation, Steve? Do you see this often where a dealer just can't financially do what is the right thing to do? What are you supposed to do then?
I see that, but I also see some dealers that honestly, they need a little bit of work on what the right thing is. I've got one on my desk right now. They agreed to do a rescission with the customer. They'll just unwind the deal. And unfortunately, they didn't call me to document it. They just went to AI. So they went to AI and they got this unwind agreement. And now the customer is threatening to sue them. And I look at the agreement. There was no release in the agreement. So they asked AI for something. They got exactly what they asked for, but it didn't cover them. and now they've got to deal with this customer anyway.
Well, let's talk about that though. I mean, Jeff and I would figure, maybe Jeff's smarter than I am. I doubt it. But if I unwind a deal with a customer, I mean, shouldn't I be free and clear? Do I need a document? Do I need a Steve Levine document to unwind that?
I'm always going to tell you, get a release because perfect example. This customer goes and sees a lawyer, tells the lawyer about it. And the lawyer said, oh, you had all these damages. You had all this mental anguish. You had all this time wasted. We're going to try to recover that.
Oh,
when it comes resolved with one more sentence.
And so the ChatGPT comment you made, that is the other side of it. You talk about the federal attorney generals not being as aggressive. So the state ones have stepped in and now they're the ones doing it. And you have consumer advocates being more active. And you have consumers who are now ChatGPT warriors that type that crap into ChatGPT and say, I bought this car from so-and-so auto and this thing happened. What should I do? Okay, please draft me a letter. So now they've got these very eloquent, well-worded letters that they send on to the attorney general that's all fluffed up. Because
this
before,
is a great subject.
It wasn't worth the hassle or headache for them to try to put together a case or draft a full letter to submit. Now they can have it done in a snap of a finger, and all of a sudden they have this full-blown legal briefing that they send on.
And so here's my observation. I noticed a distinct change August, September timeframe in the sophistication of complaints that I was seeing from consumers. And it's because AI has learned our business better and it has learned how to attack our business better. So I've seen that. And I'm so concerned about it. I'm actually teaching a class on this at Compliance Unleashed this year, specifically on how consumers are using AI to attack dealers because the game has changed and the quality that is going to the regulators and is being pled in courts. I looked at one last week. Pro se plaintiff. They did it themselves. I actually spoke to the lady. She doesn't need a law firm. She feels like she's got the best law firm in the world representing her because she's using AI. And it's pretty darn good.
And it doesn't take a third of what you make.
Exactly. And it actually drafted her pleadings for her. The dealer filed an answer, filed a motion to dismiss the case. She fed that into AI, and it gave her a response back.
Wow.
And she actually told me to get this whole thing started. She actually fed her deal, the contract, all the paperwork. She fed that into AI and wanted to know where she was taking advantage of.
Wow.
So it's gotten very sophisticated and it understands the weaknesses. Now, you have to be careful because again, you get out what you put into it. I see a lot of bad information because consumers don't understand the relationship. That they don't understand this, they're asking what's the usury in so-and-so state. Usury is one thing, retail installment contract rates are something else. So a lot of times that they're scaring the heck out of dealers saying all this stuff, and you unravel it and the picture looks a lot better for the dealer because all the customer was doing was just ranting and not positioning the right way. But I've also seen some dealers send back answers that they actually created liability because they put in bad information to AI as well. So that's going to be a great class because I think there's a lot of landmines people aren't thinking about.
Yeah. You can kind of get AI to say what you want it to say if you prompt it right. And I would, I think it helps in response to consumers a lot of times if you put all the information there and you prompt it well. But again, response from you is way better because I'll stay out of trouble.
Yeah. Hey guys, real quick to jump in and make sure you know about a new exciting sponsor here, a supporter of the podcast and a supporter of all independent activities, to be honest with you, Iteron GPS.
Iteron GPS, they have really, really great products. I've used them before. They're wonderful. They don't break if you install them right? All that good stuff. But like you said, a big sponsor of the industry with Buy Here, Pay Here United, and they're at every conference, Jeff. So make sure you're using the best possible GPS on the market, and that's Iteron.
Yep. Give them a call. Go to our website for more information. So let's talk about that real quick,
I think
Steve.
so.
You mentioned Compliance Unleashed and Buy Here, Pay Here United. Obviously, it's again this year joint kind of event in Las Vegas, April.
April 19th to 21st. This year we're being joined by LHPH Capital as well. So
Yeah.
it was
Compliance, Buy Here, Pay Here, Lease Here, Pay Here, all in Vegas in April. I'm on the agenda committee, so I've been helping draft some of the other sessions, and it's really exciting. There's going to be some awesome stuff, especially cool stuff in the workshop section where we're going to have some hands-on stuff, and that's something I've pushed forever. They call it the garage section. Don't get confused. It's not for mechanics. It is literally just the hands-on portion where we're going to be using things like AI to draft stuff, hopefully legal documents. But
yeah, so
it's going to be cool.
So Steve, you got one day of just compliance with you. Are you also speaking during the rest of the conference too?
Yeah, the first day of the afternoon is all compliance, and then we've got tracks. One morning, one afternoon, where we've got 4 sessions each of those days as well. The class I'm really excited about, I've wanted to do this for a long time, and just things worked out where I'm able to this year, is, that there's a big philosophy, well, it's never going to happen to me. I'm too small, I'm too this, I'm too that, never going to happen to me. I've got 2 dealers, and we're keeping them anonymous because I don't want any publicity about who they are. I don't want anybody to get names, but they're going to talk about it did happen to them. And they got attorney general subpoenas, and it's going to be a very raw conversation. We're going to talk about the sleepless nights. We're going to talk about the tremendous business distraction and all the stress and what they had to do to even respond to that information. Not only is it the money cost, it is the time cost, and it is a huge distraction on the business. So
it's emotional. It's emotional cost too.
It is. And we're going to talk about all of that. And because literally these are 2 dealers that if you ask them, it would never happen to them. And it did.
Well, I've always been under that thought. Hey, I'm not big enough to be messed with. I think they would go after, somebody with 5,000 accounts or 2,000 accounts, not, somebody in Columbia with 1,000 accounts. I never thought that would happen, but it does happen.
It absolutely happened. I'm working with a dealer right now, and they only sell about 15 cars a month.
Oh man.
Should have never happened to them. Unfortunately, they didn't know who I was, and that they started working with the regulator themselves, and quite honestly pissed them off.
Oh no, don't ever do that.
Yeah. They pissed them off to the extent that I should be able to work something out quickly now, but I'm not able to because this regulator is just convinced that they're being sneaky and they're doing bad things.
So that's the hard thing, Luke. And you talk about being too small. Sometimes it is the small dealer that just doesn't know any better. And that's the problem, is we don't know what we don't know. So we've been doing it one way, or we were taught one way, and all of a sudden we get these lawsuits or complaints that we've been missing a form or missing a signature or saying the wrong thing because we're not big enough to have a compliance department or to really be paying attention to that stuff or going to convention and getting educated. So that's the issue, is it's us little guys that just kind of slinging it like it's the Wild West. We're not paying attention to dotting our I's and crossing our T's.
Yeah, my compliance department is Steve Levine. But I mean, that's how I handle it. So, we used to hear CFPB. Does that even exist anymore?
CFPB exists. CFPB has been greatly reduced in numbers. CFPB is still active, but they're focusing on other things right now. I'm more concerned about the Federal Trade Commission.
I was about to say, FTC, what do we got to be worried about there?
You've got to be worried about your advertising. You've got to be worried about Google reviews. That they have gone after, not just our industry, they've gone after big companies about Google reviews, that not disclosing that you're compensating people for reviews, not disclosing that these are not all the reviews, that there's been a lot of activity with reviews. And the big one that I'm keeping a careful eye on is still the safeguards rule. I think the 700 credit security incident was a big wake-up call. I expect to see a lot of activity coming out of that. I'd say that in the last couple of months, I've had more private lawyers. You're dealing with a consumer issue, and all of a sudden they're working safeguards into the conversation. Well, we think that their information was breached. We think they didn't take care of things because there's a close proximity to when they gave us the application and when bad things started happening. So we're seeing that too. So I tell folks, if you do not have an information security plan in writing, if you don't have an instant response plan, if you're not doing some type of training with your team, bare minimum, you need to be doing those things because if there ever is an incident and you are not able to demonstrate that you did something, then you're going to have a book thrown at you, either by a regulator or private litigation.
Yeah, that information, the thing is, we don't know whose information it is, right? We figure that my DMS should take care of that information. Our 700 credit score should take care of that information, or 700 credit should take care of that information. And when something happens with your DMS company or 700 credit, that it brings us into liability, to me, it's kind of upsetting, but we're still responsible, right?
You are still responsible. And I caution folks, 700 credit did a fantastic job, that they were staffed accordingly, that they had resources. They were able to take a lot of the pain away from the dealers and do a lot of the work for them. They got out in front of it. They communicated. They did a really good job. The next one, we may not be so lucky that company may not have those resources. They may go out of business. They may disappear. They may jump into bankruptcy, and everybody's going to be left fending for themselves. So you really have to put in some work now and not just think, I know it wasn't easy, but to the dealers, 700 credit made it look easy because they did the heavy lifting.
I pay them enough. They better.
No doubt. Good gracious.
Become one of my biggest bills as a jerks.
I tell you,
no, they're great people, and I'd love for them to advertise on the podcast.
It's going up there for sure.
You mentioned Google reviews real quick. Is there something coming out? I was trying to find it, but about whitewashing your reviews and getting in trouble for that. So when us dealers are like, oh, I got a 1-star review, I'm going to challenge it with Google and try to get it removed. And it's like, oh, don't do that anymore. Like that's a no-no.
Yeah. So just in the past couple of months, Google has changed their rules. Facebook has changed their rules. If you want a really good article summarizing all that, Terry McCauley at Big Time Advertising put something out. It's really strong content that'll explain what they've done. But when I do website reviews, one of the big things that I see is, okay, great. You've got 15 reviews. They're all 5-star, but they go back 4 years. So you're telling me in the last 4 years, you've only gotten 15 reviews and they're all 5 stars. It's a misrepresentation. And that has become its own cause of action now. And lawyers could turn that into a deceptive acts and practices claim. Regulators could turn that into a similar type of claim. So you really have to understand what your website is doing and ask your providers about this stuff. That there was something going around just last week. My phone blew up over the weekend. I got like 5 different ones. It was a spoof. It was a phishing exercise. But purportedly it was from a law firm saying that dealer's website has unlicensed images on the website. And these came from all over the country, all different businesses. I looked at them. I was able to figure out quickly that it's just phishing, nothing to worry about. But those claims are real. They are out there. People are being sued on them today. I actually know a lawyer that was sued on that. Make sure that your company is using stock images. If you're using stock images, make sure that they're licensed or you're using actual images from your dealership. A lot of people want the lady holding the keys. Make sure that's a stock image. Make sure that they are licensed for that. Make sure that your provider is telling you in writing that yes, your website is compliant and we're using licensed images. because those cases could get very expensive.
I want to go back to one thing you said about Google reviews. And it was compensation for reviews. Does that mean you can't compensate your salespeople for getting the reviews, or you can't compensate the person for leaving the review?
If you compensate a person for leaving the review, you need to disclose it. Even if you're giving them a car wash, even if you're giving them, oil change, whatever it is. I forget the hotel chain, but hotel chain just got in trouble with the FTC because they were encouraging reviews by giving people points, and they weren't disclosing that. And you could do it. You have to disclose it.
And would you disclose that at the bottom of the review, or do you disclose? Where do you disclose that?
You could disclose it each review. You could just disclose it at the top of the review page. So some customers have been compensated for these reviews. Some customers have gotten, whatever it is.
But compensating your sales staff for obtaining the reviews is still okay.
Yeah, you could do that. Yes.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to verify that because I have heard about some things going on.
I've heard of someone that may or may not do that. Allegedly. Steve, let's wrap this up. I think this is a lot to chew on because every time you come on, I just think to myself, man, there are so many blind spots I have that I need to just make sure I'm buttoning up, because it is ever changing too. And even my document package, when we have little glitches in software or changes in little things that get like, well, are all my packages right? Am I still getting signatures in all the right spots? Am I still keeping them long enough? Like, all these things pop up and it's continually changing. And so we have to be continually reviewing it. It's not just to set it and forget it. And I think a lot of dealers just think that, oh, well, I probably did it right the first time, so I'm sure it's fine 10 years later.
I hear that all the time. Please get your documents reviewed at least once a year. I used to work for a DMS. I know you haven't done anything different, but your documents may change. A document gets slipped in, one gets taken out. You have to check and you have to make sure. Don't rely on your DMS, because I guarantee you in your contract with the DMS, the DMS says, these are your documents. This is your responsibility.
Yeah. All right, Steve, how can everybody get in touch with you? Because they need to call you, I promise you.
Yep.
Go to info@ignitecp.com or igniteconsultingpartners.com online. Certainly, you could find me at Compliance Unleashed, Buyer Pay United in April. We've got a lot of good information planned. And, you guys know this because y'all have called me before. I'll talk to anybody. You don't have to be a client. I'll answer the phone. If you've got a problem, pick up the phone, give me a call. I'm glad to steer you in the right direction if I can. So just reach out to info@ignitecp.com.
And Jeff and I are customers. This is a non-compensating a podcast here because we believe it's that important for consumers for our dealers listening to consumers of this podcast to be compliant and to be good dealers. Because if we're all good dealers that are listening, we're only going to get better and make each other better. So reach out, do it the right way, and come to convention. It's so great to see Steve there. You can actually ask him questions and not other dealers on how to stay compliant.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Talk to you next time.
Thank you, guys. And I love the Independent Dealer podcast.
Thanks,
I'll talk to y'all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Also a non-compensated endorsement.